Ladies and gentlemen, Binnall of America!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Tim Binnall.
No commercials, no subscriptions, no network, no rules. And at the end of the day, my friends, no comparison. Welcome back to another edition of BOA The Revival. Really looking forward to tonight's program. Our guest is Jeremy Socha. I had the good pleasure of chatting with Jeremy a couple of weeks ago on his podcast, Infinite Rabbit Hole. And he's got some exciting stuff going on, some exciting projects. So I was kind of like, well, as soon as July comes around, we'll get him on the show to talk about this stuff. And he's also going to be presenting at the 45th, which is stunning to me. We'll find out more about that. The 45th annual Elmwood UFO Days in Elmwood, Wisconsin, the end of July 26th to the 28th. Talking about Elmwood, Wisconsin's UFO history, and I'm amazed that this thing's 45 years old. So we're gonna find out about all that. We're gonna find out about the podcast. I may make him tell us about his Bigfoot sighting, because in case people didn't hear that when I was on Infinite Rabbit Hole, it's a crazy story, and all that good stuff. So Jeremy, welcome to Binnall of America. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you, man. I'm excited to be here.
Now, we always start out with the first-time guest, the bio, the background. Who is Jeremy Socha, and how did you get mixed up in all this stuff?
Well, who am I? I'm a podcaster. That's it. That's all I am. I'm a book nerd. I like reading about all this stuff. That's pretty much it. I'm just a super fan. How did I get into it? Well, like you alluded to, I saw something in the southern Vermont forest when I was 9 years old. And honestly, the best description for it is a Sasquatch. When I was 9, I thought, honestly, I thought it was a werewolf. That's the best description that I could have given it with my 9-year-old mind. But
right.
That's kind of how I got into this. It's just, I grew up, a lot of people were telling me I was bullshitting all the time.
Right.
Like, no, dude, you didn't hear. And I kind of, I don't know, became a recluse in with the subject, at least.
Yeah.
Until, I did 8 years in the Navy, and I met my co-host there.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thanks for the support. I met my co-host of the Infinite Rabbit Hole there, Jake.
Wow.
Co-host, best friend. We met about 4 years in, working on H-60 Sierra helicopters. Same thing as the Black Hawk, just in the Navy we call it the Seahawk. We have a couple different versions of it. We were working on the Sierras, and honestly, it's kind of a sad story. Him and I both witnessed something really bad in the military. And I started going down a really, really, really dark hole. Sorry to start this one off all dark and stuff. And sad.
No, man, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear this. It's but it's. Go on.
Shit.
Thank you again for your service, and this is why we thank these folks for their service, folks, because they see some fucking horrific shit, so that we don't have to. So it's appreciated, man.
I appreciate that. And I just started going down this really bad dark hole, man. It just became somebody that I didn't recognize, and honestly, I didn't have a lot of motivation in life. I was a father of 3 at the time, and honestly, without getting too deep into things, that was pretty much my anchor to the world. Without that, I'd have a much different life right now, if any. And it was probably during the absolute darkest time of my life when my buddy Jake just kind of threw the idea of doing a podcast about some of the stuff that I really like. And it's a really long story. I don't want to bore everybody with it. And then, it just kind of turned into the infinite rabbit hole. And here we are almost 4 years in. And I found, that thing in life where it gives me something other than just being a parent. Being a parent is absolutely amazing. But when that's all you have in life, it's hard. This gives me something, gives me self-worth other than, just being, like I said, a parent.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. I was a fanboy of all the weird, strange things that people say they see or experience, because I saw and experienced something when I was young, and people told me I was full of shit. And, if I saw it, I know I saw it. A lot of other people who are saying that they saw some weird shit, very well could have actually seen that weird shit. So there might be some mysteries to this world that aren't just mainstream, something that you got to look, in the dark corners to find. So yeah, absolutely. And like you said earlier, what makes your Bigfoot sighting so compelling is because you were just a kid, and like you said, you didn't even know what Bigfoot was, and you just called it a werewolf. Like that's one of those kind of, a really, that makes it, in my mind, a particularly strong case, because it's not like you were a little kid who saw a Bigfoot, like saw Harry and the Hendersons or whatever, and then you fucking came home and were like, oh, I saw a Bigfoot. Then it's like, oh, you saw Harry. It's like you didn't even know what Bigfoot was. It's just a completely foreign thing to you. Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to people's minds. Like, have you not seen Harry and the Hendersons? Listen, I get crap all the time because I've never seen Star Wars. I've never seen Lord of the Rings. I've never seen Harry Potter. Like, I mean, there's a lot of movies out there I just have never seen, and I catch crap for it all the time. And I can tell you, at 9 years old, never saw Harry and the Hendersons. In fact, first time I ever saw it was about 3 years ago. Yeah. After I started the podcast, I said, I knew it existed. I just never went out and watched it. Never, my parents never put me in front of it as a kid.
Yeah, I think I saw it once as a kid, but I'm the same way you are. I have like an addictive personality, so it's like, look, I can't. I know, like, I don't even want to fucking touch some of this shit, like Harry Potter. That's like crack. Like, I don't fucking, that's like, for me, that's like the equivalent of crack. It's like, look, I see one thing of Harry Potter that interests me. I am fucking, there goes like my summer. There goes my summer, because I'm going to be fucking reading Harry Potter all summer. And I'm going to be obsessed with it, and fucking I'm a muggle or whatever the hell they say. It's like, so that's why I don't do Star Wars or Harry Potter or any of these like big franchises, because it's like I can't really, I won't make it, man. I'll just go like down the infinite rabbit hole for real.
Yeah. I mean, as you can see back here, this is what my interest turns into. So if I was interested in all that stuff, I just wouldn't have room for anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm the same way. So, now let's talk about. We'll circle back to the podcast. Let's talk about the Elmwood UFO days. As I said, coming up end of the month, July 26th to the 28th. If I had known about this a little sooner, I would have found a way to go. But now it's like, oh shit, I don't know. The plane ticket's like a fucking astronomical. So, this is how they've been doing this for 45 years, this festival?
Yeah. So actually, they've been doing it for 46 years. They had to take a year off for COVID. Right. So, this is the 46th year since the beginning of Elmwood UFO days. There's a lot of really cool stuff about Elmwood, Wisconsin that a lot of people don't know. Some really, really sketchy shit happened. And, we'll kind of dissect that a little bit here today. The festival,
sketchy shit. Yeah, all right. Yeah, tell me about the festival. Now I need to know about the sketchy shit. But so this is predates Roswell for events. I mean, it must, right? Because there's no fucking way Roswell had to have come along like in the early '90s or something. So that's wild.
Put it this way. I don't have his list of accomplishments, but author Howard Bloom back in 1990 wrote a book called Out There. Yeah. And in this book, he dissects a particular UFO group in the government, a project. And this UFO project was born from, well, I don't know if it was necessarily they were born from or that they contributed to Project Aquarius, which was damn it, sorry. Man, I'm drawing a blank here. The thing, it's Project Stargate. You're sitting in a room and you can see things that are happening on the other side of the planet.
Oh, like a remote viewing project.
Remote viewing. Thanks. I don't know why that was so hard to come up with.
These names are all so vague that don't worry about that. It's that happens to me all the time. I'm finding it happens a lot more now as I'm getting older, but I'll be on a show and fucking so the name eludes me. I'm like, shit, I used to know this off the top of my head. What the fuck? I hate getting old.
Same shit, man. Same shit.
All right. So there was a group in Elmwood that was
no.
Okay.
No. So there was this secretive DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency group.
Mm-hmm.
And they were either helping out Project Aquarius, which was the precursor to Project Stargate, which eventually became such a big thing, along the lines of the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. Project Aquarius was basically like the dry run. In a very, very vague sense. And their mission was to spot Soviet subs for the U.S. military to be able to tell them where their location was. Howard Bloom goes into how he had two people on the inside of this it was called the UFO Working Group. That's the only term that's the only name that it goes by, just the UFO Working Group. He had two people on the inside who was feeding him some information. Now he worked for some big time newspapers out there, as well as some magazines, and then became a New York Times bestselling author with his book out there and a couple others. But he was back when journalism was journalism, right? You really dug your heels in and you did the hard, gritty work. And this book basically is him following the UFO Working Group as they're discovering things or doing things around the world, but mainly taking part in the year 1988. Now, in this book, Howard Bloom basically dedicates the entire middle section of the book to Elmwood, Wisconsin. And he doesn't directly say this in his book, but it leaves you to believe that during Project Aquarius, now the part that they do tell you is that Project Aquarius, when they were discovering Soviet subs, they were spotting that there were weird things in the sky over the oceans where these Soviet nuclear subs were. And then you see that paralleled in a lot of other things like the Malmstrom Air Force Base, where the aircraft came in and they shut down the nuclear reactors. There's a relationship between nuclear power and UFOs. So he talked about that briefly. And then the part that he, kind of leads you down to believe is that Project Aquarius at one point saw something over Elmwood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and then he goes into the deep, deep history of Elmwood, Wisconsin. And obviously this predates Howard Bloom in his book, but the words that he uses to describe Elmwood, such as not only the UFO capital of Wisconsin, but he believes it's the UFO capital of the world.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering here. We're going to kind of dive into all this shit as we go along. So it's, just bear with me if I interrupt you here, but sort of take you down a different path in a sense. But like, what is, and maybe you were going to get to this, but what is, because the Howard Bloom book came out then 32 years ago, right? So this thing is the 45th annual, 46th.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to go back another 60. What fucking happened that made Elmwood even have a UFO festival in the first place? It has to be, I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but this might be the oldest American UFO festival, period. I really can't imagine. I can't think of one that's older than 45, 46 years old. So what started all this?
So the very first on record UFO sighting in Elmwood, Wisconsin was in 1956, where there was a line of about 7 cars that eventually piled up on one of the county roads and witnessed a orange glowing light craft / light thing float in front of them or hover in front of them about 20 feet off the ground. Okay. Whatever it was enough to get them to pull over, get out of their cars, watch it. And enough people, which took up 7 different cars, all witnessed it.
Yeah.
Now, this is not one of the bigger events, but this is the first. Okay. And it's a very interesting way to start it off, right? That you orange glowing light. You'll see a pattern here.
Okay. And a mass sighting at that. I mean, we're talking at least 7 people if there were 7 cars. And presumably there were other people in the cars. So we could be talking, 12, 15, could be 20 people or something like that. But definitely 7 at least. So you almost never see that, period, UFO sighting. That's particularly rare as it is. Right.
So there's 3 big sightings. And there's a multitude of them in between, speckled before, during, and after this 1 year gap, pretty much. I don't know if I showed you this last time, but the town of Elmwood, Wisconsin, gave me a binder of all of their newspaper clippings, their magazine clippings, anything that described anything dealing with UFOs, sightings, or festival. In the town of Elmwood and the surrounding, what they call the Pierce County Triangle here in western Wisconsin. Now, just to be clear, I only live 30 minutes away from Elmwood, and it was complete coincidence that I moved here, by the way. I have absolutely nothing tying me to Wisconsin. I was born in Connecticut. I grew up most of my teenage life in Florida, moved to Illinois with my wife after I met her in high school and joined the Navy, and then I cruised a couple spots on the East Coast, and I had absolutely nothing to northwestern Wisconsin. It just randomly, this is where I came to settle down because I got a good job offer.
Led to you.
Yeah. So 1975, a woman by the name of Carol Forster was driving home from her parents' house in Arkansas, Wisconsin, which is about 15 miles away from Elmwood. Okay. During her ride home, and there's a couple conflicting details here. I mean, I've looked through probably 30 different articles. I've watched a couple video interviews with her, and most of the ones where she is actually telling the story, she tells it as if this started happening about 5 miles away from her house. Okay. They basically saw a glowing orange ball out in the sky, thinking it was a star, a bright one at that. And then it started getting closer as they started getting closer to their home in Elmwood. Sooner or later, this thing got so close that they had to physically stop the car, reverse into a driveway of the Weber household, and have Mr. Weber come out. I believe his name is Robert Weber. Don't quote me. Don't have my notes in front of me right now. I'm just going. It's all right. And he gets out. He witnesses whatever this thing is. It seems to be just over the tree line across the cornfield across from his house. And he's like, okay, yeah, I see that. That's strange. It's just, at first they described it as possibly being a satellite. And of course, Carol was like, no, I don't believe that this is a satellite. And Mr. Weber, of course, seeing it for the first time, is like, yeah, that looks like it might be just a satellite. I mean, I don't know what led him to believe it was a satellite, but either way, Carol felt better that somebody else put eyes on this thing. Mm-hmm. So she got back in the car. She had 3 kids in the car at the time, by the way. 1 in the front seat, 2 in the back seat. And she started driving. I think they said somewhere between a half mile and a mile away from the Weber house was where she lived. Yeah. So she pulled out of the driveway, started going back. This thing shot back to her and dropped down in the middle of the road, right in front of her car, forced her to stop. She reversed back into the Weber driveway, blaring her horn. Mr. Weber, his 2 teenage kids, and his wife all came out, witnessed this thing just bobbing back and forth just over the cornfield, waiting for Carol to leave again.
Jesus.
So Mr. Forrester jumped in his pickup and escorted her back to her house. Now, when he did that, this glowing orange ball or craft, she did end up explaining it as a craft because she said that it looked like 2 turned over cereal bowls on top of each other with legs, and basically the light that was emanating from it was just blinding orange.
Weird.
Yeah. So this thing followed her car since she was behind Mr. Weber at a distance of what she describes as 2 car lengths behind her.
Okay.
She pulled into her driveway, Mr. Weber in front of her, and this thing kind of came over her house and settled out over the field right behind her house and just hung there for a while. Now, depending on what source you go to, most sources point to this thing as being about two times the size of her car. There's a couple sources out there that say that this thing was like the size of a 2-story building, 3-story building. So, you start getting some obnoxious sizes in certain articles.
Yeah. Okay.
But everything, and I only tell the story where people are quoting Carol, or I've heard it literally come from Carol's mouth.
Right.
Carol Forrester and others that were involved in a lot of these sightings in Elmwood, including Mayor Larry Feeler at the time, Officer George Weber, which we'll talk about him in a little bit, or Wheeler, sorry, not Weber, Tom Weber, which is a different Weber than Mr. Weber that we're just talking about right now. They all showed up on the Geraldo show.
Oh, wow.
In February of 1988.
Okay.
To discuss this. And Dan Rather actually sent an entire crew to Elmwood to get the story as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean,
these are fantastic already. These are 2 fantastic stories again, because this is like multiple witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
These are the good cases. These are the ones you want.
And that's the good thing about Elmwood, is that they have great cases with multiple witnesses. These 3 that we're about to talk about, Carol Forrester being the first one, is amazing. The next 2 are just as, if not more. Okay. Basically,
lay it on me.
Yeah. So just to wrap up the Carol Forrester event. Basically, her husband came home. They watched this thing through their back window, and then eventually it just kind of lifted up and just coasted off into the whatever,
ether.
Right? Yeah, just out past their view. A lot of tree lines in Wisconsin. Just throwing it out there. Right. But the next one happened only about a month after that, and this is Officer George Wheeler. The next 2 are actually both from the same person. Officer George Wheeler was an ex-Army pilot and 10-year veteran of the New York State Highway Patrol. Okay. Before he came and became a sheriff's deputy for the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. He pulled part-time as a replacement for the police chief of Elmwood. So he helped out Elmwood every once in a while so that the only police officer, which was the police chief of Elmwood, could have some time off. It's pretty much right. So he came up to one of the county roads and basically turn left or turn right. But as he was stopped there at the stop sign, he in the same fashion of the 1956 sighting, orange glowing ball kind of goes and just floats right in front of him. But he describes it in his best mind. He believed that this was a 747 on fire and about to crash.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he started chasing it, and he finally got to a field where it kind of settled over the field, pulled over into a ditch, got out of his car, watched this thing. He describes it as the size of a football field.
Wow.
Now, yep. And once again, glowing bright orange. I don't know what it is about orange in Elmwood, but it's very common. Very, very common.
And so this is like a circular, like a ball, but it's like a fucking football field, I guess, and just
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're talking, I can actually look up. He drew these things.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'll try to do this while I'm talking so that I'm not leaving gaps in your show. But
yeah.
But basically, right? That's it. That's it for the
initial sighting.
Yeah. I'll show you this later. In fact, I can send
Yes.
you pictures so you can share it with your listeners.
Yeah. I didn't mean to take you down that path. So that's so he sees this thing over the field.
Yep.
It's like a ball, like the size of a football field, which is almost hard to fathom. And then it just goes away.
Yeah. So unlike the Carol Forrester event, this thing just zips right off over the tree lines. I've been to the exact spot where this happened. In fact, I've been to all three of the spots that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
With Amy, who is the UFO Days president. She took myself and my co-host Jake on a personal tour of Elmwood and all the locations, and we got to get out and actually see what these people, where they were when they saw it, and kind of get an idea of what they were looking at.
Yeah.
The third one is the big one. This is the one that put Elmwood on the map. This is the one that got everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Once again, Officer George Wheeler is working the shift in Elmwood. And he gets a call of a possible fire in the man, I don't know why I can't think today. I'm sorry, man. Crap.
Is it like a building that he
No.
the fire, or is it like a
forest? No, it's a big hole in the ground where they pull minerals out of.
Like a mine.
A quarry.
Oh, a quarry. There you go. There you go.
I can't. I just got off a 12-hour shift, man.
It's all right, man. Don't even worry about it, dude. Come on. I wouldn't even quarry, mine, hold.
Yeah.
I don't. People know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
So he gets to the bottom of the hill, and he noticed that it looks like there's a fire up there. So he drives up. He gets over on dispatch, and he's talking to Gail Helmer, who is the police chief's wife, who is also the dispatcher for Elmwood.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, it looks like there's a fire. I'm going to head on up there and take a look and see what's going on. You might want to go ahead and start getting people ready, call emergency services. He heads up there, and then all you hear him come over the dispatch, and he says, it's one of those damn fucking UFOs again.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if he's dropped the F-bomb, but there's a couple different quotes. One of them does throw the F-bomb in there. And this time he gets to really see it. This is his second encounter, so he takes more time to take in some more details.
Right.
Basically, the gist is that this is another one of those things that looks like basically like a saucer, right? That's the best way to describe it. He described it as two cereal bowls put on top of each other. Mm-hmm. Also, yet again, emitting a very, very bright orange light from the top of it. Now, a few other details that he was able to add was what looked like a turbine on the inside, right in the middle. You could see these, what he describes as veins swirling around really fast. He doesn't ever use the term turbine, but when you take that and you think of aviation, turbine, right?
No.
And then it's got this long black appendage that's hanging off of the bottom of it. Now it's not over the quarry. It's actually over an alfalfa field right by the quarry.
Okay.
He doesn't know what it's doing. He can't see the bottom of it, but it is trailing the craft. And then there are 4 flashing blue lights. The next thing that we get basically in the chronological order of things is that another man who is driving his babysitter home for the night finds Officer Wheeler's cruiser on the side of the road next to the quarry, him hunched over the steering wheel, his radio with Gail trying to get his attention.
Oh, God.
And he wakes him up, tries to get him to kind of, conscious, right?
Right.
And he says to the guy, he says, damn thing hit me.
Oh, wow.
And the guy said, who? He's thinking hit and run. He's like, what was the color of the car? Do you know who it was? And he goes, no, it was one of them damn UFOs. Basically, the story was, the best he can recollect is that he was engulfed by a blue light. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Knocked out. He went directly to the local doctor, who sent him to the hospital. He needed to get medications for extreme anxiety, depression, nightmares, the whole run of things, right?
Yeah.
Officer Wheeler, before he's seen either of these UFOs, was a avid disbeliever in the whole phenomenon. He hated it. Was not a fan. His wife Doris, it goes on many different accounts, has expressed that he was never a UFO nut, never a guy who believed in any of this crap. So after about 7 days, he goes home. He believes that he has radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
So soon after, he goes back to another hospital in Eau Claire. The first one was in Menominee. The second one was in Eau Claire.
Mm-hmm.
And he spends 11 days there. And he specifically asked for radiation testing. They don't find anything wrong with him because his blood count's all good. So they don't believe it's radiation poisoning. But Officer Wheeler truly believes that he is suffering from radiation poisoning. He's having really bad issues with stress, with anxiety, depression, not being able to be alone. 10 months after this encounter, he dies from a heart attack.
Oh, jeez.
And this is the story that really got all the attention of the nation. Because now not only do you have an officer who is an ex-veteran pilot, New York State Highway Patrolman veteran, a very positive person in the community of Elmwood and the surrounding areas here in Pierce County, or not here. I'm in Dunn, but in Pierce County.
Yes.
And he's saying that he's seen these things. He's scared for his life. His life completely changes, and he passes away shortly after.
Jeez.
Now you have Geraldo and Dan Rather, a bunch of newspapers. I mean, like, if I just name a famous newspaper from the 80s or late 80s, yes, they were there. Yeah. So shortly after, the town of Elmwood kind of, tried to take I wouldn't say try to take it. That's what they were doing. They were trying to take advantage of it. They used to have. So this festival is actually a lot older than 45 years. It used to be called the Stars and Stripes Festival.
Okay.
But shortly after everything really kicked off, they changed it to UFO Days. And that's it.
Wow. This is amazing. So three significant cases in this little town, essentially. It's a relatively small town.
Oh yeah. Like 800 people in the town now. There was 960 something in 88. I forgot to mention, right? Both of the Officer Wheeler encounters, there were people that called in that saw the same thing.
Yeah.
And then dispatcher Gail Helmer actually called a house next to the quarry, and the person inside the house also saw this craft that Officer Wheeler was reporting. So the first one had an additional 3 other people that reported the same craft. The other one had the person that lived next to the quarry and a bunch of people, like almost this entire area around the quarry, that reported that their TVs all shut off at 11 o'clock and their dogs went wild.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't really ever heard any of this stuff with Elmwood. It's really remarkable that it's hasn't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure hardcore UFO people know about it. I thought I was a hardcore UFO guy, but I have never really heard about these Elmwood sightings. This is really remarkable and very interesting. And this is what led Howard Bloom to call it what he thinks is the world UFO capital. It's very weird.
Yeah.
It's really very weird.
So to come full circle, where all the real weird shit happened in '88, a guy by the name of Tom Weber from Chippewa Falls tried to capitalize on all the publicity, and he proposed to the town of Elmwood a $50 million UFO landing site. Yeah, in '88, that's a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, that's tons, and especially it's a shitload now. In '88, it's like astronomical.
He said he needed $25 million to buy the land and build the facility, and $25 million to keep up with it and pay everybody who was to work there, including scientists, basically everything that you need at an airport for UFOs. What, utilities and such.
Guys, he's an idea man. Clearly, he's a dreamer in a sense. It seems a little bit like, all right, thanks for the proposal, guy. Now get the fuck out of here. Like, we're not spending $50 million. So what happened?
So, that I'm talking the same time, very shortly after the proposal, then you start getting all the news companies coming in trying to get the story of what's going on here. Basically, long story short, he never got the money. He got about $20,000 in support. The mayor, Larry Fuller, he actually was an avid supporter of the whole idea and tried campaigning for some funds for Tom Weber. Never came to fruition, but one strange little tidbit, and Howard Bloom mentions this in his book, and he specifically calls out NASA engineers going to Elmwood, but he knows because of his inside people with the UFO working group that these were not NASA engineers. These were DIA agents sent there from the working group to get information on Elmwood. Now, if you go over to all the newspaper articles that I read through, many of them do mention NASA engineers coming to Elmwood, Wisconsin, to try to get information from people. They were interviewing people one-on-one in private rooms. They were taking soil samples. They were out there with Geiger counters, all kinds of stuff. These quote-unquote NASA engineers were.
Interesting.
I don't know why NASA engineers would be there investigating a UFO or a UFO hotspot. But Howard Bloom fills that gap. And ever since 88, 89, after the whole Tom Weber thing died out with the UFO landing spot, Elmwood goes cold. And you don't hear from it again.
Interesting. Wow.
Yep.
Weird.
Yep.
Odd. Now, is there a possibility? Is this near any sort of like military base? Because this has been some kind of test of a clandestine government craft, you think?
The closest military base is a National Guard base in Menominee, South Menominee, and it's tiny. I actually went there, being a veteran coming to the town. Of course, I'm curious. I drove up to it. It's nothing. It's literally just a couple buildings. Right. It's absolutely nothing. There's nothing going on there. Now,
I suppose if you have a giant like super craft, you don't really need to be that close anyway, right? I mean, they could have flown the craft over from Boston,
anywhere,
or whatever. Right?
Anywhere. I mean,
Area 51. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it could be a number of absolutely anything. Now, on top of the orange glowing ball, which there's minor sightings such as a giant glowing ball with white smaller ones that come off of it moving at incredible speeds and incredible angles before coming back and being absorbed by the giant orange ball again. That shows up in a couple of reports. There's one other one that shows up too, other than the orange ball, and that is a craft, a physical craft without an orange light with a white light and red flashing lights. Now, not calling myself an expert or anything, but I spent 8 years working on military aircraft, and one of which I did 5 years on the H-60 Sierra Sikorsky helicopter. I do know a few things. One, that a helicopter such as the Black Hawk, right, which is it's the most popular helicopter in all of the military, is the H-60.
Yeah.
Has a searchlight on the front, a searchlight on the bottom, and 2 flashing red lights called anti-collision lights, one on the belly, one on the tip of the tail.
Yeah.
And that's FAA regulated. Those have to be there.
Yeah.
So if they are flying around Elmwood and chasing people, I don't know. I'm not saying that they were or not.
Right.
But some of these reports definitely sound like they were. I'm getting a lot of helicopter vibes off of some of the minor reports.
Yeah.
Like really heavy helicopter vibes. Yeah. So there may be something around here. There may be something over in Minnesota. I mean, I'm not far. I'm only an hour away from Minneapolis, St. Paul. So there could be something that way.
Very weird. Yeah, because it makes you wonder whatever this is, whether it's an alien thing or if it's a secret government project or whatever. It makes you wonder, like, why Elmwood? Like, why do they keep coming here? Unless it's like maybe it's so remote that they think that this is a good place to test out the thing on a small group of small population base. Because to me, it's like, I mean, I've grown really skeptical over the years. So my first thoughts are always just like, okay, this is us. But that doesn't make it any less interesting because it's like, what the fuck are we doing with these giant orange balls flying around? I can't really wrap my head around the alien parts. Like, if they're aliens, I'll never be able to understand them, why they're fucking here anyway. So it's like, that's like in the realm of like, I'm an ant compared to why they would come to Elmwood. Maybe they just really like it and shit or whatever. But the other part, like I said, is like, why, if it's a clandestine craft, why would they come here unless it's that town? Yeah. Unless it's maybe just that it's a small enough population base that they want to test it out somehow. Yeah.
So I'm releasing a 3-part documentary series, documentary series on my podcast, starting the first Tuesday in July, and sequential Tuesdays after that will be part 1, 2, 3.
Yes. So by the time people are listening to this, they can already check out at least the first episode at infiniterabbithole.com. But yeah, go on.
So in part 3, I do have a section of why Elmwood, and there's not a lot there. There really isn't. There's people who believe that they know. One of them is that it's such a rural place, and the unique hill structure here, which isn't honestly that unique. It's rolling hills. That's the gist. And Elmwood has plenty of them. They're surrounded by hills. There used to be large power lines going through some of the fields there, like really big power lines. And they were thinking maybe they were going there for energy.
That's a popular UFO theory. Yeah.
And then you have the fact that most of the minor sightings happen around the quarry. So it could be something to do with minerals. It could be something.
It could be that. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know why it is Elmwood. It may not be any of that.
Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, we can only really guess. We have no idea why. It's just a very unique location as for a UFO hotspot. Now, what is why you mentioned it was part of a Pace Triangle? Is that what you called it?
The Pierce County Triangle. Yeah.
Pierce County Triangle.
Yep. The 3 points are Elmwood, Ellsworth, and Plum City. Okay. Not very big, but basically all the sightings that I report in my documentary series comes from. Yep. So part 1 is all minor sightings, and I go into a little bit of the CIA and the UFO working group at the end of that, and then part 2 are the 3 big ones that we just talked about. Yeah. I go over a lot more minor details, and then part Part 3 is everything else, from the landing spot to UFO days to the Hollywood and the press. So
nice. Now it's not like oh, this isn't enough. But does Elmwood have any other sort of high strangeness connected to it? Has there ever been like a Bigfoot sighting or humanoid sightings or anything like that would even add another layer of high strangeness to the place?
So, all right, here's the gist, right?
I like the way you're setting this up. Yeah.
I don't know how else to do it. The fact is that Elmwood has an ongoing relationship or issue with UFOs. They're still seeing them. Okay. People won't talk. They've been burned by media. They've been burned by local newspapers, local news stations, other podcasts that have just touched on the subject.
So it hasn't gone cold. You said earlier it went cold after the
it went cold publicly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. No, it went cold. Like you're not getting any other information out of Elmwood. In fact, all newspapers basically stopped reporting on all this. This only goes up to 88. There's nothing past 88 in here. Gotcha. And you see that nice clear line of 88 right when all, the national news is interested in it. Tom Weber comes out. You have the UFO working group with the NASA engineers there. And then all of a sudden, done. You're not hearing about it anymore.
Okay. But there's still shit happening. People just aren't kind of talking about it.
Correct. So Amy, who is the president of UFO Days, she knows. She's seen stuff. She's told me some of her personal events, right? She sees them clear as day from her house. She actually let Jake and I go over to her house one night and cook up s'mores with the kids and have the wives out there just smoking and joking, having a good time. Yeah. And just being around just in case there's anything that pops up in the sky. And I actually ended up seeing something weird. Jake ended up seeing something completely different that was weird. But she has her own stories and she was able to point them out. Like, hey, I seen this over there. I seen that over there. I seen that over there. And Amy is a really well-spoken, brilliant person, like very, very smart. Absolutely nothing, no red flags in her whatsoever from my point of view that says this person is making up anything. And she has specific names that she has given me that she wants me to try and talk to. Now, there is one particular person there. I'm not going to put his name out there.
People in the community she wants you to talk to.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And she was really pushing us to do the UFO Days thing because she knows that we approach these subjects thoroughly and respectfully. Although, the conversation-based episodes on the Infinite Rebel can get a little, bad mouth and, fun, right? Yeah. The documentary episodes are very, very professionally done.
Right.
And she wants Elmwood to come back. She wants, she's the president of UFO Days. She wants that to succeed. She wants to bring money into our town. And she gave me one person's name. In fact, I went to one of his properties while I was there. It is now an abandoned house. And she specifically tells me that on this property, he has seen a Bigfoot multiple times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It is his belief that he has a portal somewhere on that property. I did some research and found out that this gentleman owns over 1,000 acres of land in Elmwood in different locations. But most of it is all in one grouping.
Okay.
And he is a worker at one of the local businesses right there in town. Many people out there own a bunch of lands. They do a lot of farming, cow, milk, plants, corn's everywhere in Wisconsin. And most of them have second jobs in the town. So I did meet this person, but he wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
So, Amy's just like, treat it like, just be a presence and be a respectful presence, and then maybe he'll come to you.
Yeah.
So we're presenting.
All right.
We're presenting the story of Elmwood this year at UFO Days, Saturday at 4:30 in the auditorium. Basically the same presentation that you heard here, maybe some more details, and hopefully I can put on a good enough show, a respectful show for some of the locals to see that I mean very well by it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've treated it with complete respect and sort of, I didn't even dare say reverence here on the show tonight. So it's been, you're the perfect representative for this Elmwood UFO Days and Elmwood as a UFO location. Now, I'm looking at the poster here that got posted up recently, and just for people who are in the area who might want to check it out, it's in Elmwood, as we said, July 26th to the 28th, and speaking on Saturday at the event, they're going to have UFO sighting bus tours, which sounds awesome. 10 a.m., our friend Aaron Goulias is going to be there doing the Saucer Life, a presentation. He talked about that last week on the show. Tabby Voss is doing Spirit Talk, Hauntings and Spirit Allies. Sarah Comio, hopefully I got that right. We'll talk about her presentations. Mendon Ascend, Michael Harris, paranormal speaker, and then at 4:30 on that Saturday, it's going to be the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast, as you just said, doing the history of Elmwood as a UFO hotspot. And if you're not sold on this now, folks, this is why I was like, I would fucking be if money was no object, I'd be on a plane that weekend, because then later in the day, as a lot of this is going on, 2 to 4 AWF Professional Wrestling, a free wrestling show on Main Street.
Yes.
When Aaron said that on the show last week, I nearly fell out of my chair. I'm like, well, this is the coolest fucking UFO conference I've ever heard in my life. Like, I would be there. And then also, I don't know what this is. It sounds good, like it could be trouble, but then at 7:30, adult water fights. So that sounds wild too. And if you could see this poster, folks, or maybe we'll tweet it out on the Binnall America thing and on the BOA page, but it is just jam-packed with all kinds of stuff happening over the course of the weekend in Elmwood. It's really UFO Days Grand Parade, kids pedal pole, puzzle contest, ecumenical church service, American Legion, live music at Kern's Curbside, live music at Sandbar. Wednesday at midnight is the band. So, like, music, food tent, pro wrestling, and UFOs. This is like, please pass along my hats off to Amy, because this is like my fucking dream conference. I will almost certainly be there in 2025, because this sounds awesome.
Well, we look forward to it, man. You need a place to stay, let us know. Jake and I live a stone's throw away from each other. We'll find a place for you.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, that's the Elmwood UFO Days. Just punch in Elmwood UFO Days, folks. You'll be able to find it. So Infinite Rabbit Hole is your podcast. As we said, folks, right now they can start listening to some of the Elmwood stuff that you're going to be posting up here in July. And it's you and Jake and also other co-hosts, right? You kind of a rotating cast of characters in a sense.
Yeah. Sorry, clearing my throat.
Right.
To kind of give everybody an idea of what the Infinite Rabbit Hole is, it is basically a podcast that looks at all these strange topics from the point of view of 3 different people with different points of view.
Okay.
We do have other hosts that join us every once in a while. We did have a 4th host until he just announced that he needed to take a little bit of a break. Obviously, that's fine. Every co-host at some point is taking a break on the Infinite Rabbit Hole and come back.
Yeah, basically, it was after the show with me, right? He's like, I'm out. This is it. You crossed the line. You have it all on. I'm fucking done.
Pretty close, actually. So you have myself. I'm just a fan, right? I just love this stuff. Anything from external to the body, such as Bigfoot, UFOs, spirits, and alternate dimensions, parallel worlds, just strange physics phenomenon, all that stuff, to inside the body, such as the theory of split brains, to deja vu. And we just covered NDEs, which was really cool too. My buddy Jake, who I had started this with, is he's a Christian, right? He's very, very into his practices, his beliefs, and he looks at this stuff through a Christian filter, through his views, right? I don't share that with him. He's just my best friend, and I talk about the stuff, I get excited, and he kind of tells me to shut up, and pretty much, right?
As only a best friend can, right? Yeah.
Right. Then we have Jeff, who's also going to be at Elmwood. He's flying up from Florida. He's a co-host that we actually met throughout podcasting, and we just kind of kicked it off, man. He was a good guy. And I was like, come on over to the Infinite Rabbit Hole. He said, hell yeah. He is your tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. Government's out to get you. I wear a silver-lined beanie so that the Pentagon can't hear my thoughts, kind of thing. All right. Yeah. so
he's intense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then CJ, who is the one that just he's stepping away from the podcast a little bit. He's your occult, mystic, magic, that kind of the ghost spirits, everything underneath that umbrella. Healing crystals, whatever you say. So we have 4 different viewpoints.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That we attack this from. And the idea is that if you listen to the Infinite Rabbit Hole and you get into one of our conversation-based episodes, hopefully you hear your voice. That's what the thought is. And at the same time, we make fun of each other, and we've been told that we're very rude to each other. 3 stars. They're very rude to each other.
Well, that's good. Well, that's how you have the chemistry. That's what makes a good podcast. Every time I've had a few different co-hosts over the years, and there's plenty of ribbon going on. That's for sure. Now, you mentioned something about split brains.
Oh yeah.
What the fuck is this?
Split brain. I did a solo audio documentary on this. Split brain is basically the idea that there's actually 2 consciousnesses inside of your brain.
I think I've heard of this. Is this connected to the thing where like people think maybe the gut has a brain?
No. It strictly has to do with the 2 hemispheres of your brain. The corpus callosum. I can't believe I remembered that, but I couldn't remember Corey. The corpus callosum is the connective tissue.
Up now. Yeah.
Is a connective tissue between the left and right hemisphere of the brain. Epilepsy patients back in the day. I don't remember the year. It's been a while since I've presented this, but but basically the way that they cured epilepsy back then was to sever that corpus callosum.
Okay.
And they started noticing that people were doing things with their left hand that they didn't realize that they were doing.
Like what?
And like throwing a ball, writing something.
Okay, so they became keys. Like ambidextrous, essentially.
They basically whatever was happening on the left side of their body, they had the left side of their body, they had nothing no way of telling that they were doing it. And so they started setting up these tests. Dr. Michael Gazzaniga, I believe his name was. It's back here somewhere in
it's library. I believe you have the book.
I have a couple of them, and Michael Gazzaniga is just one of the guys, one of the doctors who was doing these tests. Set them up in something as simple as sitting in a chair with a piece of cardboard that splits your face right down the middle, so that your right eye can only see to the right side of the cardboard and your left eye can only see to the left side of the cardboard. And you see something on the screen on the right side of the cardboard, which is your right eye, which is the left side of your hemisphere of your brain, right? So left side of the brain covers the right side of the body, vice versa.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
The left side of the brain is responsible for communication. So the theory is that we're born with 2 consciousness.
Interesting.
And over time, because you become so reliant on communication, that the right side becomes mute It doesn't present itself to
Interesting.
the external world. It just kind of goes along for the ride, because although it's used for a lot of different motor skills and other really incredible things that we do, it's not as relied on as communication.
Right.
Because the left hemisphere can communicate, it then therefore becomes the primary consciousness.
Weird.
And some of these tests are just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I read reports on the very early tests were done on rabbits, cats, and monkeys, and they got some really, really incredible stuff. But the ones that really hit home are the ones that were done on humans eventually, where they would say, they'd have a bucket on both sides, right? Mm-hmm. And they would flash something on the screen in the left side to the left eye, which was talking to the right hemisphere. Okay. And it would be like a baseball, right? And they would say, grab the object in the bucket that correlates with the image. And they'd be like, yeah, I can't do that. And then sure enough, they're holding a baseball in their hand. And they have no idea that they're doing it. To them, they never saw. Now, remember, their corpus callosum is cut. So the communication between the two brains is although there are different ways for them to communicate, like they communicate through other channels. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely muted because the corpus callosum is cut. Although they said that they physically cannot do that because they do not know what the image is.
Yes.
They had it in their hand.
Wow. That's weird. That's strange.
Very strange stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of that. It's kind of like, it's one of those freaks of human, nature, mysteries of the body or something. It's very, I don't know what to, it's bewildering.
And I'm telling you right now, from what I just told you, that's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right. There's so much more to it. Yep.
Interesting. Really weird.
I do a whole episode on it, and I think I did a pretty good job at dissecting it for everybody. I'm told it's one of my better ones.
I'm sure you did a great job, dude. You mentioned it. I see, when I ask, sometimes you're like, when you have a particularly favorite show, it's like, as soon as you said that split brain one, I'm like, clearly this is something that this is super obscure to me. And it's clearly man. This is the fact that he mentioned this means that there's something here with this split brain that I need to know more of. So that's really odd. Reminds me, up here in Boston, we have at the Harvard Medical Library, they have the skull of the guy who got the railroad spike up through his skull.
Yeah.
I want to say his name is Phineas or something like that. But he had a railroad spike that went right up under his chin, right up through his skull, through his brain, and he lived.
Yeah.
I don't recall exactly. I don't even know the details of all that, to be honest. But his whole personality changed as a result of this injury to his brain, which happens.
Yeah. Just for you and anybody else that's interested, the books. One of the books that I had was from Michael Gazzaniga. It's called Tales from Both Sides of the Brain, and it's just an absolute.
Interesting. These are relatively new, recent-ish books.
Yeah. I want to say this one was in the 2000s. Was published.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look this guy up. He sounds like he'd be somebody interesting to talk to about all this stuff.
Yeah, if you get Gazzaniga on, that'd be really freaking cool. Yeah, 2015.
Nice. Now, beyond the split brains, is there any other particular episodes that stand out that you're like, all right, this is one of my? I hate to do this because people do it to me when I'm on shows all the time. So, turnabout's fair play, I guess. So, but
I'm pretty sure we did it to you.
Yeah,
so it's fair. It's definitely fair. Well, we just dropped to episode 170. So I definitely have a lot to choose from here. I think one of the more interesting ones, aquatic ape theory, was really.
I've heard of this. I heard of this recently, and I did whatever the opposite of an infinite rabbit hole. I met a puddle. I kind of looked at the Wikipedia page, and I'm like, oh shit, that's wild. So, and I was kind of one of those that I earmarked where I'm like, I got to get back into this aquatic ape thing down the line sometime.
You should.
And find out about it. So tell people what this is, because I need a refresher myself beyond the general sort of idea.
The lead person in all of aquatic ape theory is a woman by the name of Elaine Morgan. Okay. I believe she has passed away now. So unfortunately, but she has a book. It's called The Aquatic Ape Theory, and basically goes over just a goldmine of information about how humans could have potentially come or evolved from apes that were more water-bound than tree or Sahara bound.
Yeah.
She looks at things just very briefly. It's been a long time since I've looked into this.
I hate to put you on the spot, but
right.
Just give me a thumbnail. Like, I don't know shit about it. So what's the general, this is the gist of it. Yeah.
Hairless skin. The fact that we walk on two legs. If you look at any other animal in the entire world that walks on two legs, all you're really looking at is avians. Right, you're looking at birds, storks, herons, that kind of stuff. Where are they around? They're around the water. If you look at any other animals that specifically only have hair on their heads, you're looking at things in the dugong and walrus families, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking at any of the other mammals that are land bound, that do not have hair, such as pigs, hippos, elephants, rhinos, they're very reliant on covering themselves with water or mud all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. Even the fact that we learn to speak she goes into a whole thing about how it makes sense that we formed a communication with spoken word instead of hand gestures or any of the other such, because if we were water bound and we were communicating with somebody that was out of the water at the time, the way to do that wouldn't be with a physical representation, it would be verbally. So
the hairless part, the hairless that part especially, because it's like, look, I get we evolved from these primates, essentially we are primates, right? I think, it's like, how come we don't have any hair all over our body? Like, I get, okay, it evolved to be that way, but it's like, okay, why? Well, but then the swimming part, and we swim. Apes don't swim, right? As far as I can tell, maybe they can do a little bit of swimming, but they're not like particularly adept at it, are they?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. Bigfoot is said to swim.
Bigfoot can do anything.
Anything.
Really can.
But I mean, that she starts punching holes into like the Sahara theory, where we turned into two-legged animals because we needed to run fast from things that were trying to kill us. Right. Go ahead and try to race your dog. I mean, exactly. They're on four legs. We can't run as fast as that. We can't run as fast as a lion, a zebra, or anything on four legs. That doesn't make sense. And there's cold nights on the Sahara. Not just as much as there is hot days, but there are plenty. Why would we be hairless on our entire body if we still needed the hair and everything else evolved down a pathway that produced hair?
Right. Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. It's like, why are we so different when we do share characteristics with things that
that's
are either
the weird
semi-aquatic or fully aquatic? Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, look, I mean, dude, that makes as much sense as fucking that aliens came and made us, which is like what a lot of people, you know what I mean? That's one of the other theories. Like, oh, why are we so different? Oh, because the aliens came and tinkered with us and made us and shit. That other, I'm going to assume that this woman's theory was like lambasted or whatever, like shunned, ignored and torn down by the mainstream science.
Oh yeah, 100%. And she goes into all that in her. I misquoted the name of the book. It's The Aquatic Ape Hypothesis. Is the name of the book. I did get the author right though.
Excellent.
So
yeah, well, I can imagine. Yeah, I think that's how I stumbled upon it myself. Where I think someone was like, because I swim in, no pun intended, I swim in flat Earth circles at times, not as a flat earther, but as a friend of the flat earthers, and So I'm sure at some point somehow like they got combined like compared or something, and I'm like, what the fuck is this aquatic ape theory? This is weird. Yeah.
There's so many topics out there, Tim. I mean, just to rattle off. In
particular, well, okay, go ahead. You were about to say something. So.
just to rattle off some of my favorites without going too far in depth. Screen memories is something that I absolutely love. I got a pretty cool screen memory tattoo that I'm going to go get here before UFO days. I'm really excited about that. And then I know you were just talking about flat Earth. I just finished editing 4-part audio documentary on Hollow Earth.
Yes, I have it here in my notes. It was one of the things I wanted to talk about with you tonight. Because, as I said, I'm a friend of the flat earthers, and their natural rivals, I suppose, would be the hollow earthers. But you don't see. Do you see much hollow earth? Like, well, you'll appreciate this. I've told this story a few times, but these British tabloids, they're always stretching for content, and one of the things toward the end of the year, like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, was like. You've heard of the flat earth. Now check out this radical new theory that people are talking about called hollow earth. And I'm like, radical new theory? That's probably been around longer than maybe as long as flat earth, which is a very long history. But but what's interesting, I suppose, in a sense, is that it never kind of became, I don't want to call it a movement, but it never became a movement like the flat earth, like people, in a sense.
Excuse me. Yes and no, right? It's an older movement. Yeah, I wouldn't. It's the new age one is definitely flat earth, right? That's the new stuff, which in turn was the movement prior to the hollow earth, I guess you could say. The thing that's really intriguing about hollow earth is that it answers so many things. The amount of unanswered questions that if you just plug the reality of the hollow earth into it, a lot of the stuff that we cover in our 2 podcasts get answered. Cryptids, right? Just talk about that, right? If there was an entire world underneath our feet, and we know about the vast cave systems throughout North America, throughout Europe, the cave systems under the Aztec pyramids. I mean, there is just absolute tons of stuff. Back to the story of like Quetzalcoatl, right? About how he came from the stars, but he helped bring people from the hollow earth out to the surface. Right. There's a lot. Cryptids, think of it like this, right? There's a lot of cryptids out there. People call cryptids. Personally, I think that there's a very fine line between a cryptid and an urban legend. Right. But
it's getting blurrier every day.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Ridiculous.
Although I love them both the same, by the way. I love.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But
it's sort of like it's sort of like I think I talked about maybe this with Nate Brisley, but it's like the word monster gets thrown around pretty liberally nowadays, where it's like, okay, look, are you talking about a creature or are you talking about an urban legend? It's like, no, I'm talking about a monster. And it's like, monster doesn't fucking mean anything.
So a lot of people believe or don't know that the Appalachians are just absolutely ancient. They're some of the oldest mountain range or ranges now. I mean, they're split up into separate ranges in the entire world, just shy of maybe 3 or 4 others. Right. Just for example, the Snallygaster from Maryland, right? Gosh, I can't remember the name of the mountain. Either way, I'm not going to get caught up in that, or I'll just sound stupid again. Don't worry about it. It's said to come from a cave in a mountain in Maryland, in Frederick, Maryland, or near Frederick, Maryland. It has a very unique description. Actually, I don't know. You see, I got Teddy Roosevelt right there hunting the snallygaster.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's the description is just so unique, and it's just like unlike anything else here on the surface. Well, you put that it comes from caves and an old mountain, and
it's a South Mountain Magic.
That's the name of the book. South Mountain Magic by, gosh, I can't remember her name. Thank you for that, by the way.
I got you set up on that. I answered the one, and now I got you set up with another thing.
I need a producer is what I really need. Yeah. South Mountain Magic, or South Mountain, the snallygaster comes out of, said to be its home in one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world, with a ton of an absolutely impressive tunnel system in it that could potentially, this is where, we draw the blurry line where we're connecting two unknowns together between the snallygaster and the hollow earth, but potentially these cave systems could go down to the quote unquote hollow earth. And let's say that there is a race of flying creatures down there that perfectly matches what the snallygaster is. That answers that question. Apply that same thing to every, or not, maybe not every cryptid, but most of the cryptids that are talked about in ones or twos, and aren't seen in bulk sightings throughout time, like Bigfoot. You get your onesie twosies, your urban legend cryptids, if you will.
Yeah, like a Dover demon.
Exactly. Yeah. Dover demon. I'm not going to say her name. I'll just say her all day. But it answers that. Then you go into the Admiral Byrd expeditions, Operation High Jump and Operation Deep Freeze, where he supposedly had this diary that told about his encounters with an advanced civilization of being in the Hollow Earth that spoke German with swastikas on the side of flying saucer. They called them Flugelrads that perfectly mimic the details or the description of a flying saucer.
Right, like over your shoulder there.
Yeah. So there's that answer. Then you have flat Earth. Flat Earth talks about the ice wall, right? One thing that I learned while I was doing research on Hollow Earth is that most of the ice on this planet, including the stuff at the polar ice caps, or either one, south or north, if it's frozen, it's fresh. It very rarely is it salt, because during the process of freezing, the salt gets pushed out, and fresh water freezes faster than salt water does. So all the fresh water it just pushes all the crap out. So you take the ice wall that flat earthers talk about, and you take the subtropical regions of the inner earth that hollow earthers talk about, and you have the waters that flow out the north and south holes, which are called Symes holes. And you get the warm water hitting the cold water, and you get the ice wall. Okay. Which would have been described by ancient, I wouldn't say ancient, but historical explorers who believed in the flat earth. Like, just throw it out there, like Christopher Columbus believed that he was going to go to India, right? So he landed on the coast and started calling all the Native Americans Indians. He believed in the flat earth. Right. So,
well, he didn't actually. That's a
oh, really?
That's a misnomer. Yeah.
Oh,
he actually did not, but it's all right.
Excuse me. I have all my research material for flat earth is over there. I haven't gone through it yet. So
there you go. It's all right. No, that's a very popular notion. And I'd lose my flat earth card if I let you keep going with that without. And they'd be like, what the fuck, Binnall? So actually they would appreciate that. The flat earthers, they don't have any appreciation for flat earth history, oddly enough. So they kind of don't care. But it's I forget what the circumstances. Oh, I remember now. It was just to bring you up to speed. So the story of flat earth, of Columbus and the flat earth, was put forward by now I'm doing it, but a famous I want to say maybe it was Charles Dickens, but a famous English writer. Might have been an English writer, might have been Mark Twain. I don't fucking know. some writer was commissioned to write the biography of Christopher Columbus long after it happened, like several centuries later. And it was a time when science and religion were at odds, and it was used as sort of like an allegory, but not very veiled.
Yeah. So
it was like, okay, he went to do this, as this was how science worked back in the day, because the powers that be were so caught up with religion that they thought the earth was flat. Something. It's used as a sort of a teaching lesson that's not actually a true story. So yeah, that's a little bit of flat Earth trivia for people out there.
Yeah, I mean,
which I completely butchered in telling, but I think you can get the gist.
I don't really have anything against flat Earth or flat Earthers. In fact, if I talk to somebody, my buddy Jeff, one day he's a flat Earther, one day he's not. He kind of goes back and forth. That's that conspiracy theorist guy I was talking about.
Yeah, believe me. I'm down. I'm down with the planer, obviously.
But I love hearing the evidence. I think it's absolutely fascinating. Some of the stuff that they come out with, where it's like, okay, you have some good points here, and science doesn't really have any good answers for it. And I find it very interesting. In fact, if any of your flat Earth listeners want to recommend books for me, I freaking love books, man. The books that I have right now are The Greatest Lie on Earth by Edward Hendry and Flat Earth, The History of an Infamous Idea by Christine Garwood.
That's the book you want. That's the book
this
you
one?
Want. That's the book.
Yeah.
That is the gold standard. It's outstanding. It's absolutely outstanding. I just hung out with Ed Guimont over the weekend, and he's got a Flat Earth book coming out sometime next year. And
sweet.
He's an academic. He's a historian at a college somewhere. Bristol, I think. Bristol Community College. Anyway, how did we get on? Hollow Earth. Yeah, it's very well. It's just weird in a sense, but it is weird, I guess, that people are diehard. They're called flat earthers. They're diehard flat. But you don't see like any sort of, or is there a community of hollow earthers? Are there people out there who are espousing this idea anywhere besides the Harvard paper that came out like a couple of weeks ago where they were like,
how interesting is that?
Terrestrials. Yeah, that was a nod to the hollow earth. It was essentially a whole recap of the hollow earth theory, but there aren't hollow earthers. I mean, sure, there are people that believe in it, but there's not like a community of them, right?
There's a whole Reddit community. I can tell you that right now.
Okay. All right.
I mean, Reddit, the wild, wild west of the World Wide Web.
They need to hold a convention then. Hollow Earth convention. I would be down for that.
That'd be cool. I don't know. It definitely doesn't have the backing of Flat Earth. But back in the time, gosh, I'm gonna get my dates all mixed up and names mixed up, so I'm not gonna even try it. But back when the Symes holes were named by the guy with the last name Symes, there was a ton of backing for it then.
Okay.
And I would even, with the stuff that I've read, it sounded like it even made its way to like cult-like following, if you will.
Right.
Like the Kardashians, not the Kardashians.
Kardashians.
The Kardashians.
They got on board with the Hollow Earth. It would be take off like a rocket ship.
Probably would.
Well, it's interesting in a sense. I've used this analogy with aliens, but you can really use it even more so with the Hollow Earth theory. And that is, if you think about it, Columbus, ironically enough, and that even the Vikings, you go back to them, they found America. But if you really think about it, and you take human history, you go back all the way to like ancient Greece, ancient Rome, Egyptians, we're talking millennia, right?
Yeah.
If you kind of look at the world history, ostensibly, theoretically, what they tell us is that for millennia, these civilizations had no idea that there was this massive continent full of people who also were existing for millennia, and presumably having no idea that there was a whole another giant sphere of land occupied by various civilizations. So it's like we didn't really figure that out till 400 years ago or whatever. And that, to me, when you say, oh, there could be, not you, but the idea that maybe there's a civilization of people living inside the hollow earth, well, shit, that doesn't sound any crazier than if you were in Shakespeare, I don't know, whatever, before they sent people over to the New World. And you were like, oh, turns out there's a whole civilization of people over here we didn't even know about because we didn't know how to get there, or we didn't have the means to do so. So again, it's sort of the idea that we could be living beside something tremendous that we just may not even know exists yet. And it even goes back to sort of the idea of conspiracy theories, powers that be. Maybe this was knowledge handed down that there was a new world out there, and there's a place there we can't really get there or whatever. It's like only the cream of the crop knew the secrets of how there's a whole nother world on the other side of this ocean. Now I'm rambling, but I think you get my point in a sense about what I'm trying to say about the undiscovered worlds right here on Earth, or within the Earth.
Just to clarify, it's the cult of Koresh. Cyrus Teed in 1869. Around that time, he had a vision of God and created the cult of Koresh, and they were heavily believers in the Hollow Earth.
Interesting. So when are you rolling out these Hollow Earth episodes? In August?
Yep. So the last week of August, we're celebrating our 4-year anniversary, and part 4 will drop on our 4-year anniversary. I think it's the 27th.
Nice. All right. 4 years. Wow. And you've been doing it steady for 4 years?
Well, we had a gap of about 2 months when I first got here to Wisconsin. I just needed time to settle in.
Right.
But yeah, for the most part, 4 years. Yep.
And the show, as you were saying before, is sometimes interviews, sometimes conversations with people, and other times these audio documentaries, if you will.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do a little bit of everything, and I think that kind of hurts our numbers a little bit just because we're not consistent, right? We're the infinite rebel. The name just says we kind of do whatever we want, and that's what we do. Right. Sometimes we do documentaries where, like, for example, I'll read off the script that I have for my documentary, and after every section, we'll stop and we'll talk about it, and we'll give our points of views on it. And that's how we used to do it a lot. We used to do that probably for the first 3 years of this podcast. Yeah. Then we started getting into, I wanted to become more serious in this world, because I really love this stuff. I absolutely love this stuff. So I wanted to have a professional voice in this whole field. So I started doing the solo documentaries with some nice music behind it, making it nice and crisp and clean. I'm not stuttering. I don't sound stupid. I don't take 5 minutes to come up with the word quarry. Oh
God, you're gonna beat yourself up on that one for weeks.
Oh yeah. All of them. So it's fun. I like doing it just because I like getting something nice and fresh and clean. And then like we have interviews. We just like to sit down and bullshit with people, that have interesting things to talk about. So yeah, we've had some really really cool guests other than Tim Binnall. We've had
he's problematic. So,
I think one of our I don't know, cornerstone interviews was with Tanya Derenberger.
Okay. I talked a little about Tanya with Ashley, and your friends. You do some stuff with Ashley Hiltz.
I'm actually a co-host on her Beasts and Beyond podcast.
Nice.
I've done 2 episodes with her for that, and I don't know if she's going to continue it or not. She hasn't really come out and said anything. She's a busy person though. What were the
beasts that you covered?
Phantom Black Dogs and the Loveland Frogmen.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, we've done a lot on the Loveland Frogmen, but what are the Phantom Black Dogs?
Oh man, Tim, there's a lot here, man. Basically, they're the love child between a cryptid and a spirit. Okay, they come in the form of a spectral black dog. A lot of people now refer to them as hellhounds. That's where that all comes from. But I mean, every culture in the world seems to have stories of spectral hounds.
Yeah.
You know, you have the Beast of Burgwest, and then here in the United States, that's out in England with the Black Shuck, and then here you have the Snarly
England's got a
Yow.
lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, tons of it. Snarly Yow, which is also in Maryland. And then you have, man, there's so
tons.
many.
Yeah, legendary.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Not going to get into naming them all off, but
Yes, you don't have to do that.
there seems to be a connection with people. I wouldn't, maybe not. There's a connection with them and protection, and sometimes you see in a lot of the reports or the sightings of black dogs, people are scared shitless of them. Yeah, well, they tend to be visually frightening and threatening, but it turns out that if you let the story unravel, the ones that do unravel, it turns out that it seems that this spectral black dog was trying to protect the person by not letting them go off over a rickety bridge.
Oh, interesting.
That kind of stuff, where it's like, this person for 3 nights wanted to go over this bridge, and this is a very, very generic story, but
right.
Wanted to go over this bridge, and this black dog was just barking at them and not letting them go over. Well, it turns out that a car went over it the very next day, and it collapsed into the river. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's also ones, the Blue Ridge. I can't remember the exact name of it. The Blue Ridge something, where the dog showed up very commonly along this one pathway, and somebody finally said, "All right, I'm going to follow it." So he went out there every night trying to whatever triggers it to trigger it. And eventually, the dog came and he followed the thing and found some remains, really, really old remains, extremely old. But yeah, found remains of a person. So
Of a person?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Weird.
So
yeah, well, interesting. Yeah, I've heard of the spectral dog things, but I haven't really, there's spectral creatures across the board. I think that Gene Tewksbury mentioned spectral moose up in Maine. So it's
the white one. Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of interesting. It stands to reason if there could be ghosts of people, there could be ghosts of animals too.
Yeah.
One would imagine. So it complicates things. You don't hear a lot of talk about ghost animals, but they must be out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've come across my fair share of reports and books that mention things. I mean, even ghost Sasquatches. There's reports of those. Spectral white Sasquatches. Not very many, but there are.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, you would think you might see a ghost of if there are Sasquatches, one would imagine there would be ghosts as well. So Interesting. Is there any particular topic that we talked about, the split brains and some of the other stuff, that either you're dying to get into or that you've done that just really, I couldn't help but sort of start going off at the mouth about flat Earth. So that's kind of one of my things. You know what I mean? So are there any other else beyond what we've talked about that you'd say all right, that's one of my things. That's I really love this particular topic, this little niche, this, peripheral subject.
Well, as of lately, I've been getting really into UFO incidents for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, it's all the Elmwood stuff.
Yeah, I know. It was a joke.
Oh, wow.
But I think the one subject that I really want to get into, that I'm just kind of itching to get into once my already planned schedule falls to the side, is the chronovisor. The futuristic scope or lens that the Vatican may have.
Yes.
the vision into the or vision into the past and the future. Or forgive me if anybody's listening to this, like this guy doesn't know what it is. It's true because I haven't read the book yet. So
right. I'm vaguely familiar with the coronavirus. It's like a device that supposedly allowed the user to like look back in time. I'm not sure, maybe even into the future, but definitely back in time. And somehow it fell into the hands of the Vatican.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be down in their miles of archives or something. Locked away, and they were able to watch like the crucifixion and whatnot. So yeah.
You'd hope something. Surprised they haven't invented something like that yet, but you know,
I just want to see what kind of evidence there is of it. You know, I could be convinced of anything. I may not believe in everything, but I'll sit there and listen to it and just enjoy the work that somebody else has put into it.
Right. The book I think you're thinking of maybe is something like Coronetti's Coronavirus or something like that, right? It was like it was like a priest who purportedly made this thing. I don't know if this must be the same. Yeah, Father Ernetti's Coronavisor. Yeah, that's an old one, man. That's like.
Do you know how much this thing costs?
How much?
It's over $100.
I'm not surprised because I should check my library because I actually just got rid of a ton of books because I was just like, I don't have the space for these, and I'm not really a book collector per se. But I may have Dr. Ernetti's Coronavisor, but that book, that story at least, that's from like when I first got into the scene from 2002, 2003, because I remember when I first started out listening to Coast to Coast, I heard that's where I heard the story on Coast to Coast, and that would have been like 2003, 2004, back in my janitor days. And it was one of the first paranormal books one of the first like genre books I picked up when I really started getting back into the scene, because it is such a fantastic story.
So I just on Google shopping, I put in Father Ernetti's Coronavisor. There's only one that comes up for sale. It's from abebooks.com for $299.99.
Oh shit! I'm really gonna look for it.
And it's literally this copy. Yeah. So,
no, I have it somewhere. I think still, but yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a great story. Time travel. It's a fascinating concept.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, it's I love all things. I mean, I've got so many books, man. It's just like when I hear of a book and it's like a new topic and it's like, oh man, I never heard of that. I just buy it and it just sits over in this section until it gets read. It gets put into everything else once it's able to be, categorized and
yeah, for sure. Yep. You got. You're describing, I think, a lot of Binnall America listeners. You're describing me. I got a book here I got like last week, the Jackalope book.
I just bought that too.
Oh, nice.
That's over there as well.
So that's like on my left-hand pile, and then on my right-hand pile is I should take a picture, but it's like all the books that I've had the Binnall America guests like this, over the past like 4 or 5 months. Like, what's the book? I have the book here, and that way I can reach it.
There you go.
Nice. There you go. Yeah. Looking forward to digging into that one.
Huge fan of books, man.
Absolutely. So, UFO Days, Elmwood. That's the big event. 45th annual Elmwood UFO Days. Sir, URL. I know I'm on here, facebook.com/UFO Days Elmwood. So, it's pretty, look, folks, the 45th annual. So it's pretty renowned. Elmwood, Wisconsin. July 26th to the 28th. If you're thinking about checking it out, if you're in the area, you should definitely do so. It sounds fucking awesome. And like I said, now that I know this exists, there's a very good chance that I'll make my way up there in 2025 because it sounds awesome. And I'm a huge festival fan. And this sounds like you guys are really doing it right with the festival, and I want to go on one of these tours. I'm enticed. I'm really enticed here. And the pro wrestling, you can't go wrong. Pro wrestling on Main Street. Tell Amy I'm so blown away by this whole thing.
It's a cherry on top, man.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And you'll be talking about Elmwood's UFO history, and as I said, our good buddy Aaron Goulias will be presenting on Saturday morning as well. So, Binnall America listeners, It's near Eau Claire, right? I was looking at plane tickets, and I'm like, where would I even go? And I guess I have to fly into Eau Claire and then figure out how to get to Elmwood. So,
yeah, you can fly into Eau Claire or Minneapolis. One of those two will get you here just fine.
nice. All right. Well, check it out, folks. If you're in the area, if you're within driving distance, or you got some scratch and you want to have a little paranormal adventure, this one sounds like one that is definitely worth checking out. Elmwood UFO Days. And the folks from Infinite Rabbit Hole are going to be presenting there. Now, is it going to be you, or are you going to have the other guys there too? Is it like a round table, or are you just going to get up there and sort of do essentially like what people can hear at Infinite Rabbit Hole right now, the podcast, the sort of a presentation on your own?
I'm going to be honest with you. This is our very first public anything. So I don't really know what to expect. As of right now, I'm going into it just knowing that I'm going to be presenting the story, and I'm pretty good just shooting from the hip. So just kind of go with the flow, and above all, just have a great time. That's what I'm going to try to do.
That's the best thing you can do, man.
Yeah, have
a great time. As I said, like 99% not going to be able to make it. I'm still going to go look at airline tickets, like a couple, later on today, later on this week, and see. Oh, maybe I could swing this. I don't know. Especially now you told me that Minneapolis thing. Maybe I can get a flight in there somehow. But give my best to Aaron Gullius when you see him there, for sure. He's really excited about the wrestling. He blew my mind with that one. I was like, holy shit. And folks can find out. They can check out Infinite Rabbit Hole at infiniterabbithole.com. It's on Spotify. It's on all the main sites, pretty much wherever you can find Binnall America. You can find Infinite Rabbit Hole. And as I said, infiniterabbithole.com is the website. So, Jeremy, it's been awesome, man. I had a blast. It's been really enjoyable. Hope I didn't put you on the spot too many times there with the.
No, man.
People do that to me all the time, and I'm like, oh, jeez. So I have like a list now of like, all right, when they ask me for the bestest episodes, I got this list here that I have in my back pocket. So I'm ready for this appearance on this show. But I really enjoyed the conversation, and there's a seriousness about you that I really appreciate. And it comes through in the conversation. It really came through, especially we were getting into the Elmwood UFO stuff. You had me on the edge of my seat because you were really telling these stories. I could feel the passion that you have for these stories and the seriousness with which you treat them. And I have a lot of respect and appreciation for that, man. So it's been a really great conversation tonight.
I appreciate it, Tim. That's awesome, man. That's phenomenal. Thank you.